So we will send this video to you after the presentation, so you can always go back to it, as well as the slides. Those were actually sent to you earlier via email, but we will send them again as well. We'll get started in maybe 2 minutes just to let everyone trickle in. But thanks for joining. We're so excited. College Essays 101 tonight. Thanks for joining us. We're so excited. We'll get started in just a minute. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. Welcome. Thanks for joining. We'll get started in maybe 30 seconds. Give the last few people a second to trickle in, and then we'll get started. We know your time is limited and you all are very busy, so we appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us this evening. Again, this recording, or excuse me, this webinar will be recorded, so we'll send that over to you after, as well as the slides. They were sent over earlier. If you have access to your email, you can open those up if you wanted to go through them, but they should be on your screen as well. All right, we'll get started. So thanks again for joining us. We're going to be going over College Essays 101. So we'll go over all sorts of fun stuff about college essays and a little bit of how we can help support your students on campus and how maybe you can help your students as well. So just a few housekeeping kind of items. So in this format, you hopefully should all be able to see the slides, no problem. If you do have any issues, you can always put something in the Q&A button. The chat is not working currently. We have that disabled, but the Q&A is available. So if you have any tech issues or you actually have questions pertinent to the topics, you can put those in the Q&A so that way one of the counselors can answer them as we go through. Throughout this presentation, you might see this little link right here. That's some resource that you can go back to and reference. So we linked some document or resource so that way you can take advantage and learn a little bit more beyond what we talk about tonight. And then again, if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A, and hopefully we'll get through all of them during the presentation, but we will definitely have time at the end to answer any more specific questions about college essays and all that fun stuff. And one last reminder, we do have a website, CUSD-Futureology, with all of the recordings of webinars like this. We also have a YouTube channel with all of our past recordings. So if you ever are interested in learning about a specific subject or topic, we probably already have a webinar or some documents on our website that you can access in the future. Alrighty, so we want to introduce our team. We have college and career counselors at every high school in the district, which is so awesome because we're here to help support students with their college and career goals. If they aren't sure what they want to do yet, all the way to they have a specific college and a major and how to help them get in, we can chat and help them along the way. So you can see all the counselors listed on this picture. We have Angela Gatlin at Tesoro, Bee Nguyen at Elisa Niguel, Heidi Davila at Capo Valley, Laura Jasso at San Clemente, Linda Kang, who's at CalPrep and Union, Myra Luna at San Juan, myself, Nicole Rengifo at Dana Hills, and then our coordinator, Erica Gardner, for college and career for the district. One thing that is unique about our team, we're college and career counselors at the district, but we work alongside the students' academic counselor to help make sure their goals are met, and we help them along the way. We all have experience working in college admissions in some form, whether it be through different universities or the admission side, so helping students understand what it takes to apply, as well as what it looks like when students' applications are being read. So that's just one really cool, unique thing about our team, as well as we provide lots of resources for students and parents through webinars like this, events such as our college fair we just held last week. Hopefully you all were there. We all have tutorial workshops on campus in the Career Center that students are able to attend. What else? We have college visits in the Career Center. We host one-on-one appointments with students and families to talk about whatever college and career goals you might have or questions. Basically, in your College and Career Center, there's a plethora of knowledge and resources, so definitely stop by and say hi. The Career Centers are either located near the libraries or near the guidance office on each high school campus. All right, so today we're going to go over a bunch of information about college essays, but we're going to look at two specific types, and I'll show you in a moment. We're going to talk about what a college essay really looks like, what it is, because it's a little different than your English class. You're writing a literature paper, just what are the big differences? Types of college essays. So if you're applying to, say, the UCs, what do those look like versus the Common App essay, because they do have some differences. There are some other essays you might be required to submit, as well as how to help you do well in these essays, give you some tips and tricks to help you succeed, and then some essay examples. So by the time we chat, hopefully you feel pretty confident and understand the college essay process. All right, I'm going to pass it on over to Ms. Jasso to continue on.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so let's get right into it. So what is a college essay, right? So it is going to be a written response, a personal statement that admissions readers will take into consideration as you are applying to colleges, okay? So this is what's going to be considered for admissions. It helps colleges understand who you are outside of your grades, your classes. Once again, they don't know who you are. So the college essay is basically to highlight you. It is your personal story and it's in your own words. So it's all about you. So you want to make sure that you paint yourself in the best light. So we'll get right into who uses a college essay. Okay, so college essays are used by UCs, by private universities, and also some out-of-state public universities will require a college essay. In this session just for today, we're going to focus on the UC Personal Insight question. So if you see the PIQ, that is what that stands for, and also the Common App essays, okay? So, all right, so let's get into each type of essay. So they're going to look a little bit different and the requirements are going to be a little bit different. But for example, the UC Personal Insight questions are going to be a little more direct. They're going to be more interview style, and you are to stick to 350 words or less. You want to show, not tell them about whatever it is that you're telling them, whatever prompt you're choosing to answer. Okay, so you want to provide concrete examples of your experiences and, however it is that you're answering the question. Common App essay is more of a narrative flow. Okay, it allows for a little bit more creativity. So you're really setting up that scene. You have that intro, that middle, that conclusion, a strong conclusion, right? But much like the UC Personal Insight question, you are providing concrete examples. Okay. This one allows for 650 words, so it's a little lengthier. It's more of that essay as opposed to the personal insight questions that are a little more like short answer. And then supplemental questions, or essays might be asked of you depending on the college or university and or your major. Okay, so that you won't always be asked for supplementals, but sometimes you are. So what are admission readers looking for? So they want to know more about you, right? So they want to know, you have a stellar GPA, you've submitted the test scores, but what else is there to know about you, right? They want to know your story. So this is why we emphasize that you want to make sure that you paint yourself in the best light. They might want to know, what can you offer their university? What kind of, leadership experiences have you had while in high school? And all of this we'll get into a little bit more, but they also want to know how you've dealt with challenges or obstacles, right? How do you approach those situations and how have you come out on the other side? They want to know if you're likable, right? Are you involved in your community? What can be shared that hasn't already been shared in your college application? So if you've already shared it in the college application, you really want to make sure to highlight some of those other experiences when you write these essays, okay? So for personal insight questions, this is specifically for the UCs. There's going to be 8 questions that you can choose from. You will only answer 4 of them. Now, there is no preference for which personal insight question you will be answering. You can answer whichever question feels the easiest to you. So if it allows you to tell your story the best in the best way, that those are the prompts you want to pick. So if they come very naturally to you to answer, like if someone asks you that prompt in person, would you be able to come up with the answer on the fly? So that's how you want to choose your prompts. Now, the UC application allows you to apply to all or any of the 9 UCs. So just a tip for all of you is that your responses to the personal insight questions should not single out any particular UC, because they're going to see the same responses to all the UCs will see the same responses to your personal insight questions. Okay. Now, let's look at what those prompts look like. So, for example, they're going to have one that talks about your leadership experience, right? They want to know, what have you done in high school, whether it's at your school, through ASB or these types of things, or even outside of high school, in your community that have showcased your leadership skills. So if this is for you, that's going to be your prompt. There's some other ones that talk about you can take your time here to kind of look over these and see what they're asking you, right? But some will ask for your greatest skill. They'll ask for any obstacles that you face. Now, whichever one that you're choosing to write about, my advice to my students always is to pick your story first and then fit it to a prompt. A lot of times, if you know what you want to write about, these prompts are really easy to answer, right? Because then you can really get into it and you can answer them as naturally as possible, because that's what you want. You don't want to use like these big fluffy words where you want to make yourself sound not like yourself, right? You want to make yourself sound exactly the way that you are. So these are the 8 personal insight questions that you'll have to choose from, and you choose 4. Okay, so we're going to go into, all right, how you select your personal insight questions. So you're going to read the 8 questions to yourself. You cross out the questions that you don't like or you have nothing to say. If you really haven't had many challenges or obstacles through high school, don't try and make something up or fluff something up, right? So just whatever feels very natural to you, that's what you should write about, right? So if once you cross those out and you look at the remaining questions, okay, then you can start. What story could I use here? What part of my high school experience can I use here? So you start answering the questions you like and not worry about that 350 word count. You just start answering the questions you like, and then you can edit later, right? So all of us at our sites, we spend time with you. We have different time during the day and during the week during college season where we can go back and help you edit your essay. You can also share it with a friend or a counselor or a teacher that you'd like for them to look over your essay and just kind of help you out to see if you've left any gaps or examples out of your answers, right? So many times if you look at these questions, make sure that if it is an and question, you're answering both parts of the question and not just the first part or the last part, right? So that's a common mistake. And also, if you know that you're not focusing too much on what you are supposed to be writing about, then that's what we have those as the editing sessions for. Okay. All right. So for some do's and don'ts for your PIQs, you want to make sure you spell out acronyms, right? So if there's an organization in our community that you know about and that you've been very active in, and you have to remember that admissions reader has no idea, right, about our community. They're getting all kinds of applications. So make sure that you are spelling out those acronyms. You keep it very clean, very simple, very direct, and keep it very professional. Okay. Now, those are what you want to do, and you want to make sure that you highlight yourself, right? What you don't want to do with personal insight questions, this is not creative writing. It is not like the Common App essay. It differs in that way, and we'll go a little bit more into the Common App essay. But in this, you really don't want that to be the focus, and you don't have to do a title because they're going to know what prompt you are answering based on what you're writing about. Now, we also tell students to kind of stray from storytelling or jokes and sarcasm because, again, sometimes that doesn't really translate in an essay, and people can have, for example, if you have like self-deprecating humor, that might come off like you're putting yourself down, and that's really not your intention. So just stay away from that type of writing when you are working on these. Okay, So let's test our knowledge so far. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to read this example. That they are answering the leadership question. So take a minute to read it, and then we will talk about this after and see if this was a missed opportunity or if you think that they did pretty well at answering the prompt. Okay, so as you are finishing up, go ahead and pop in the Q&A and let us know. Do you think that this was a missed opportunity or you think they're good to go? Okay, so some of you think it's pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move right along and let's talk about it. So yes, this is a pretty good way to have answered this question, right? Because the student clearly and concisely described their leadership role. So it tells you they told you what they do, what their leadership role is in their family, what it means to them, and how that experience shapes their world and future, right? So that is telling you they're answering the question and it was very straight, very direct, and they gave you examples, right? So this is a really good example of a personal insight question and how you should really be looking at them and answering them as you're going along. Now, this was the example we just saw was for a personal insight question. Everything we just focused on was that. We're going to move away from that a little bit and go right into the Common App, and I'll bring Miss Gatlin in for that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Yasso. So we're totally shifting gears here. So going from the UC personal insight questions, very direct, almost like you're in an interview answering those questions directly. You only have 350 words. So we're switching gears over to Common App. So Common App essays is going to relate directly to your out-of-state and your private schools. There are 7 different prompts. You're going to only be choosing one of those. So again, different from personal insight questions for UCs where you're choosing multiple. Common App, you're just choosing one for your main prompt to respond to. Reason is it's longer. You have 650 words or less. 650 is your max. This is going to be a format of it's more of a storytelling scenario. So you're going to have your intro, a good hook, right, to bring in the reader. So intro, body, conclusion. It's the complete opposite of the UC personal insight questions where you're more into like an interview style response. So when you're applying and you're adding all of your colleges into Common App and you're picking one prompt to respond to, all of those colleges will then see your essay. Okay, so you're not going to be submitting different prompts or different essays to different colleges. It's just going to be that one is going to go to all the colleges that you've added onto your Common App application. So here are the Common App prompts, okay? There's 7 of them. The first one is really focusing on the students' like background, identity, interests, really what makes them who they are, tell your story. The second one focuses on lessons we've taken from obstacles encountered, right? Faced any kind of a challenge or setback and how you overcame that. Third one is really reflecting on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or an idea, and again, describing what that outcome was. Number 4, reflecting on something that someone has done for you that's made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? So a little bit different question there. Number 5 is discussing an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth. Number 6 is a topic that you want to talk about that's so engaging that it really, you can lose track of time when you start thinking about this topic. So something you're really passionate about. And then number 7 is kind of almost like a freebie. So if you're thinking of something as an example that you're, trying to fit in some of these prompts and it's really just not working, you have number 7 as an option as well. So just some quick do's and don'ts for Common App. Similar to UC's, it is all about you. So really stray away from focusing too much on someone else. It's okay to mention someone else in your Common App essay, but as long as it's not taking the focus off of yourself, okay? So for do's, you also want to open up kind of setting the scene, have a good hook, grab at the reader. Also, really important, focus on a single story or single topic. Don't bounce around too much, talking about a scenario that happened 2 years ago and then something that happened 1 week ago, right? And they're totally different topics. That's going to confuse the reader. And again, these admissions reps are going through your applications quickly. So they're trying to get a good idea of who you are as a person and how you can stand out with these essays. So if they're confusing, they're not going to be able to take the time to keep rereading it and try to figure out what you're trying to say. So present yourself in a positive light. So we'll talk about different types of essays, right? We don't all have maybe a positive story or something like that, but make sure that it does have a positive ending, right? So how did you overcome a particular challenge? Or how did you get through a challenging situation? So as long as it shows some type of personal growth at the end, that's again what they're looking for. And you don't have to choose the prompt and then try to think of what should I write about. It's really what would I like to share, what type of experience, what type of situation that really defines me. And then where that can fit in the prompt. Because remember, you also have that last prompt. If it doesn't fit in any of them, it's kind of that open freebie. So some of the don'ts, like I mentioned earlier, is talking too much about somebody else. So maybe you've had a really strong mentor in your life or a teacher or coach or someone in your family. That is wonderful and great. So again, if it's something that is needed, you want to mention them in your essay, do so, but make sure it doesn't take away from talking about you, okay? Also, different cliches, stay away from, and we'll look at some examples, but maybe some would be like, life is about determination and not giving up, right? Very general. And so that doesn't give the reader really much insight about you. Okay, so stay away from using cliches. They're not looking for fancy words, so you don't need to have your thesaurus next to you or anything like that. So again, just try to be as authentic as possible. Okay, again, Common App essays are a little bit longer. So I will give you about 2-3 minutes. It's this slide and a little bit of a next slide. But it is, important for you to kind of read through an example, just so you can kind of compare, again, the difference with the UC personal insight questions and how the Common App is set. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes here to read through that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And then go ahead and read through that. Okay, and then just real quickly in the Q&A, what do we think of this particular Common App example? Okay, so we got a good, a bad. Okay, so overall, we would say that, the student did kind of have a missed opportunity. And here's some of the reasons why. So when you see, when you're reading first and it's talking about grandpa and his experience, again, like I said before, it's okay to mention someone else in your essay, but that took up the full first paragraph of their essay. And then it kind of digressed into a whole different subject and a whole different string of subjects. So you're bouncing around from sports to family members to a class he took, right? So it's really hard to kind of like follow what exactly the student is trying to say. And it also doesn't go into a lot of depth, right? So when they're talking about their experience going to this cultural class, again, it just really scratched the surface. So they could have really made their whole essay about that experience, right? Um, Too many different situations for me to really get to know this person. I got kind of just like surface examples, and it was going from surface example to surface example, and there was really no depth. Okay. There was a lot of cliches that were also used throughout the essay, like I wrote down a couple. Embrace challenges. Every decision can have multiple outcomes, right? Those are all things that we all know, kind of as a general rule of thumb. So again, take out the cliches and put in there some personality as far as like, how did this situation affect you as a person? How did this change your overall outlook on how you want to continue with your leadership skills in the future, right? So bring it back again to a personal level. Okay, there's another section in the Common App. So additional comment section. So some students are, like, what do I put in here? Do I continue with my personal essay or do I write about this? So here's really what that additional comment section is for. Anything additional that you can't answer anywhere else on your Common App application, okay? So some examples would be a long-term sickness, like maybe you didn't talk about that and that's totally okay, but you didn't talk about it in one of your essays, or maybe you transferred a lot from different schools. Maybe there was a major loss or grief experienced. So things like that, that maybe would have had an impact on your academics or an impact on maybe a reason why you couldn't do a lot of extracurriculars or whatever the situation may be. So again, this is completely optional. It's really to kind of add if there's anything else that needs explaining on your application that's not already seen. Okay, so we touched on this a little bit, addressing trauma. I do have a lot of students that are asking me, should I talk about this? It's something, I went through and I experienced and X, Y, and Z. So it's completely up to you. It's really what you want that, admissions reader to learn about you. So it's not required. It's something that, it doesn't define you as a person. It's really, again, what was the outcome and what are you comfortable sharing? That's always what I ask students. What are you comfortable sharing? Okay. And if it's something that highlighted personal growth that you've learned from, overcame a challenge, and that's something that, again, comfortable writing about, then that's completely okay. Even if you're still working through something or like a significant challenge or trauma, that's okay. The college isn't, judging you on your personal character or situational, what context of what's going on in your life. Again, if you can put a positive spin at the end is really what they're looking for. AI. So that's a big topic. Okay. We all have Chat GPT and things like that that are sometimes helpful in some cases, but not for college essays. Okay. The reason why is it'll really take away from your personality, and the whole point of college essays is to get to know you better as a person. So putting in a scenario with Chat GPT, describe this, and it's not going to be personable and it's not going to be truthful about who you really are. So the whole reason about UC personal insight questions and Common App essays, they're only meant to help you and to help that college, help that reader get to know more about you. They're not meant to have a negative impact on you. Okay. So again, sometimes you also have to check a box that says, I certify, I swear I did not use AI. So if something ever comes back, you just don't want to run into that type of situation.
Wait, so we're gonna kind of wrap up towards the end. So what do you do once you started your essays or kind of like are ready to start? A lot of seniors kind of come to us, when should I start or how do I pick a draft? And so we want to make sure you understand kind of next steps. So really making sure you've read all the prompts, because sometimes you might not be aware of what the questions are asking, or how to connect your story to one of those questions. We can help students go over that. Make sure you double check the word count. That seems silly, but a lot of times students will write an essay before they really read the prompt, or they just read it real quickly, write their story, and it's like 400 words, 600 words, whatever it may be, and it's too long. And it's really hard to edit out when you put your heart and soul into it. So just double check the word count so that way you are well aware before you really get started, so that way you know how to keep it, short and sweet. When you're writing your essays, and this is kind of maybe after the first draft, make sure it's not too general, right? We talked about like the cliches, I'm a leader, but go into detail. So generalizations sometimes are very surface level. We want to get into details. How are you a leader? And give us one very specific example. Things like that. Remove details from other characters. So like the Common App essay example, it is nice to talk about other people and how they've impacted you, but maybe how do you now use those skills, or how do you use what they taught you in your life? So kind of flipping the script a little bit. Double check for cliches. Just make sure your essay overall adds value to your application. So are you talking about yourself in a positive light? Are you bringing up a really good example of your experience, leadership, whatever it is you're talking about? And then just don't edit yourself too much, like be you. And let the reader know who you really are. Don't like kind of tone it down. And if you want to talk positively about yourself, it's okay to talk about your accomplishments and what you're proud of, because it's a way to highlight yourself. So don't over edit yourself to kind of like tone it down, because they know you're talking about yourself. It's okay to highlight your skills or what you're proud of. That's definitely okay. So this slide just has a couple resources. So once you open the slide deck at home or you look at it in the future, you can access some info on the UCs and their essay prompts. College Essay Guy is an outside resource that has a lot of fabulous essay resource tools. You can also schedule one-on-one appointments with your futurology counselor on campus. We meet in person during like school day. We have after school hours sometimes, as well as Zoom or Teams with the parents if you're not able to make it to campus. We also all have tutorial workshops on campus. Maybe it's called Flex Time or Titan Time or Tide Time, some cute kitschy name, but every school has some sort of tutorial where we host workshops, going over essays, going over financial aid, whatever it may be. Students can sign up and attend those as well. So really now the floor is all yours. If you have additional questions, keep putting those in the Q&A, and then we'll get to those. And then if you have additional questions, you can always reach out. Our email is listed right here. We share that as a team, so we'll send it to whoever's the correct counselor if it's specific. And again, we'll send this all to you later via email. And check out our YouTube in the future if you want to see any other of our past recordings, because we try to do similar topics every year, but sometimes we've done something and it's been a couple years on very specific topics like NCAA or taking a gap year, studying abroad, resume writing, stuff maybe that doesn't happen every year, but definitely we have a wealth of knowledge. So, all right, let's see what's going on in the Q&A. And feel free to answer these out loud, Ms. Gallen or Ms. Josso, if you haven't gotten to them yet. All right, go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A. We have a little bit of time left.
Yeah, we've got one, is 650 words or less part of the common application instructions or recommended. So that's actually part of the common app instructions. So it'll state on there, you know, with the prompt, 650 words or less.
Mhm.
Good question.
And yes, we'll send these slides out after. If you registered, they were sent earlier too. So I sent them maybe 2 hours ago from Nicole Rengifo, but I will send them again with the recording as well.
So for the question on the state schools in California, so Cal States do not require essays unless they directly reach out to you, and based on your major, they might be asking you for a supplemental essay. But if not, then no, Cal States do not require essays. Okay.
Yeah, for example, like Cal State Fullerton, if you're applying directly to their nursing program, there is a supplemental essay. It's not 650 words, it's shorter than that. But yeah, so like Ms. Josso said, just be on the lookout though, to make sure you're, you know, reading your emails, logging into your portals and things like that to make sure you're answering all those supplementals.
So somebody asked, what kind of colleges take Common App? Is there a list of colleges that I can see? I'm sure we can find a list, but there's probably over 500 or 600 colleges that share Common App. And so we can definitely find that list for you. But most big public schools out of state, most big private schools, even in California, utilize it. So it's very common, hence the name, that you might use it if you are applying to a large private school or a out of state school. But if for some reason your school that you apply to, for example, I was working with somebody today, Boise State, you can apply directly on their website, and they typically share the same college essays that the Common App requires. So they're very similar, if not the same. Even if they're different, they tend to focus on the same topic. So very, very similar. And Common App, while most schools are listed, if it's not, you can just apply directly through that and submit your essay just like you would all the other apps. It's not going to impact that at all.
Okay, so for the question regarding any tips for maybe feeling motivated to start college apps, so we know this time of the year is super overwhelming. So we always tell students to take it one step at a time, right? So get yourself organized. And the first thing probably is to see when your deadlines are. So we offer a lot of help in our college and career centers to kind of go over that and to go over your timeline, right? Your senior timeline. When do I need to have this done? So working on your college essays probably is the best idea. And just, you know what, take it, sit down on a Saturday or Sunday and make sure that, you just take time to do that and maybe start writing a rough draft. Don't worry too much about the word count or worry about if it sounds right. Just start writing so that it can get, your ideas going. And then we can always assist with any kind of, editing or maybe just making sure that you're on the right track. And then go from there. So we definitely want to make sure that if you are feeling overwhelmed, you take breaks, right? And we don't want this year to be terrible for you guys, right? It's your last year. So definitely reach out to your counselors, spend time with friends, do things like that so that you can break up all of the things you have to do this year.
Yeah, and there's a question about how far in advance do you recommend students start on working their essays? I know there's probably some juniors on here as well, because we did invite juniors. So, maybe starting that summer going into your senior year. I wouldn't start too early if you are a junior asking that question, just because you don't know what your junior year is going to be like. And maybe something occurs where that's going to be something you want to write about. So don't start too early. I say the earliest would be maybe that summer going into your senior year. If you wanted to start, like Ms. Josso was saying, a rough draft, at least looking through the prompts, start to create like some bullet points of what you might write about, just some real basics, like she mentioned.
Somebody asked how the essays are read. Are they read by a computer or a person? They are in fact read by people. Some of your futurology counselors have worked for colleges as application readers, so we can attest to that. We read them, the colleges read them, the reps that visit us, they tell us they read thousands and thousands. So yes, they are read by a person. That's why we gave you some tips to like how to stand out, you know, acronyms, things like that. But yeah, they are read. So that way, it's just another way to talk about you. It's not going to ever detract from your application, but give more insight and help them understand who you are. Oh, somebody mentioned, is the essay required for the application or recommended? It depends on the school. Most are required, but some schools it's optional. And then there's a combo of schools that have one required essay and then supplementals that are optional. So it just depends. I would guess if you're applying to a private or out-of-state school, you will most likely be doing an essay. Very rarely that you won't, but it does happen, but pretty much required. And even if it says optional, at least I think most counselors recommend still completing the application that is optional, just to help give more insight to your application.
I see one that what documentation from the high school counselor is needed for the Common App. I'm guessing you're referring to maybe letters of recommendation. If I'm wrong, definitely let me know. But as far as letters of recommendation, it's different at each high school. So for instance, you know, here at Tesoro, there on our website, there's a link where you're going to fill out a Google form, and there's very specific questions that the counselors would like the students to you know, kind of talk about themselves and give some examples. And then within their Common App application itself, they will be adding their counselor to the Common App, and then their counselor gets an email notification, and they go in on their own on their end and submit what they need to regarding your student.
For the question about how often we are on our high school campuses, we are all at our high school campuses Monday through Friday. We each have a late day, so if you are needing help on a day that you know you need to come in after school, we can see you and we can accommodate for that. And we typically have a day or two where we will edit essays, or you know you can make it one-on-one appointment to meet with us specifically for that. And so we, you know, we're here for you. Okay.
For the question regarding one prompt I saw for a university was interesting. Yeah, it had a maximum of 100 word count. So with those, that's not going to be a space for creative writing, right? So for those, you really want to answer those questions directly, especially if it's asking like, what is your interest in attending this university? Or how did you get interested in your major? Those kinds of things. You only have like, again, 100 word count to answer those. So you just want to be as direct and concise as possible. It's a good question.
I think I saw a couple of people asking about test scores for the UC application. The UCs and Cal States, they do not accept SATs or ACTs. You can't submit it. So they would not review it. Maybe if you apply to a private school or an out-of-state school, you could submit it. But yeah, UCs don't require tests, but they don't even actually look at it. So there's nowhere to put it on the application as of current. Let's see.
So what's your recommendation for taking ACT or SAT? Again, that really depends on your student's college list, you know, and what the range, you know, of, you know, again, that can be, there could be scholarships, merit scholarships attached to test scores, but it's very unique to each college as, for out-of-state and private schools. So really kind of doing that research. Also, you can get a good sense if your student takes a practice test. We do have agreements with Revolution Prep Testing here in Orange County, as well as CC Prep. Those are on our websites. Students can take free full mock ACT and SAT test just to kind of see how they do. So if that's something that your student's considering, they can definitely take that free exam, get those results, and then decide if they want to do the SAT or ACT, or if they want to do it at all. Again, really depends on the schools they're applying to.
For the letters of recommendation question, we encourage our students to get those letters of recommendation from your teachers, counselors, from coaches, mentors. A supervisor would be fine. You just want to make sure that it is someone that can speak on your work ethic and other qualities you have. Okay, so this can't be like a family friend or anything like that. And again, remember that for UCs and Cal States, they don't require them for admissions. They don't look at them for admissions. But for the schools that do, just make sure that you meet the requirements. Some will require one, some will require up to 2 to 3. Okay.
Another letter of rec question, somebody mentioned UCs and Cal States, they do not require them. The only instance might be is if you are applying to something unique like nursing or audition-based majors, sometimes they will request it from you after you apply, but it's pretty rare. So typically the answer is no for UCs and Cal States for letters of rec, as well as testing. So that makes it a little bit more simple. And going back to letters of rec also, if you are not sure how many you're supposed to write or include, all of that information can be found on individual college websites or on the Common App. So if you are using Common App and you list your 3 to 4 schools on there, each school will list how many letters of rec you need, 1 from the counselor and 2 from teachers, or 2, 1 is optional. So it'll give you the requirements. So it's hard to say per campus, but typically it's the counselor for sure. And then potentially 1 to 2 teachers are either required or optional, but it's always through Common App or the individual school's website. Somebody mentioned music conservatory. So if you're applying to any kind of audition-based major, music, art, drama, etc., the universities will have individual requirements, but typically they will require the application just like everybody else, and then additional requirements such as a resume that highlights that skill. So if it's music or art, whatnot, as well as either a portfolio or a like video. So if you can't go in person, they'll ask for a recording or video examples of you dancing, just whatever it may be, but additional portfolio requirements. And that's always listed on each university's website for that major. So if you are thinking of any of those types, I would recommend chatting with your counselor as well as looking at that school's requirements because they do include more info and it's a little bit more in depth than say somebody applying straight as like a business major.
So for the question on if you're undecided and you're not sure what major to choose, you can go undecided. You don't have to go in with an exact major. The only thing that you should know is that there are some impacted majors are very difficult to get into programs at schools, and so you want to make sure that that's not one of the programs that you are, looking to get into later on.
There's a question, how are essays rated? So again, they're not really rated. I know for like for like reading for UC admissions and whatnot, you're not rating them as a UC reader. They're only there to really give the UC admissions reader more insight, more information about you to help you get a better understanding about, yourself. So they're not really rated. There's not like a scale where they're like docking you points or anything like that. They're really only meant, again, to highlight anything additional that's not already on your transcript or that you've already added under like activities or any like supplemental essays or things like that. So not necessarily like a rating scale. They're only just there to give that reader more information about you.
Somebody
So
asked,
for
this is a really good question because I feel like, I don't know if I was going to take over yours, but you can add to it, Ms. Callan. Somebody said, how do you tell a story, without telling a story? You want to show the story, right? So we say, don't just tell us a story. We want to give examples. So if you're telling me that you're a leader and you love to lead people and you're involved in activities because you're a leader and that's who you are and you love your community and you go on for 2 paragraphs about how you are a leader and how you help people, I think that's great and shows a lot about your personality. But what did it actually show me in your leadership qualities? Did you give examples of 1 to 2 specific examples of leadership? Maybe you're in a club, a soccer team, you have a job, anything that you were a leader. It doesn't have to be like an official elected position like ASB president, but even in a group project in class, how did you step up that day and make a difference? Or at your job, maybe you trained the new cashier when they started because they were nervous. So giving very concrete examples is the best way to kind of show. So just think about whatever you're trying to display, that quality, leadership or persistence or whatever it is, now branch off to like an example. What is your showing of that skill? So hopefully that makes sense. But in general, the whole point of this webinar is to make sure you understand your resources. So students have more questions, see your counselor, because then we could see your essay, get to know you, and kind of help, brainstorm sometimes. Maybe you're not sure, and that's what we can do too. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
Good. For the next question, would you suggest students avoid the last essay question prompt on Common App to the extent possible? Curious if colleges may view that as an easy way out. So absolutely not. None of the prompts are rated higher than the other. So we don't advise, trying to pick which prompt you think is the most difficult to answer or anything like that. That's only gonna, hurt you because that's not gonna fit the actual prompt that you want to respond to. So if that last prompt, whether it be the UC Personal Insight question one, number 8, or Common App, the number 7, no, it does not harm you. Again, there's no ranking. You don't get extra weighted points for answering number 1 versus number 7. So if it only fits in that category, where it's kind of like we said before, that freebie, then I would just highly suggest going with that.
Somebody mentioned impacted majors. I know we've mentioned a little bit in this webinar. That is a tricky one depending on campus because it could vary. So typically, I would say connect with your futurology counselor because we can go into way more detail in a one-on-one meeting. But typical majors that are impacted might be things under engineering, computer science, nursing. But it does depend on the campus. So for example, some Cal States are impacted across every single major, and then some are impacted by 1 or 2 majors. So it depends. So that's definitely a good question to chat. And also where you want to go to school, because if you want to stay in California versus out of state, impaction changes kind of by location and region. So that could change too. But typically those are the top few that are impacted in general at this point.
And the question regarding scholarships, so how are scholarships determined? What is it? Is it based on the essay? So 2 separate things. So there's a lot of different scholarships out there that require the student to write an essay. They are more than welcome to use their Common App essay if it fits what the scholarship prompt is asking for. And there's all different types of scholarships out there from private organizations. There's national, regional-based scholarships. Some are based on essay, some essay is not required. So we do have on our Futureology websites and on our site specifics, many different search engines that students can use if they want to get started on that journey of scholarships. Again, but they, if they're going to, write a really good Common App essay and it matches that prompt that specifically that scholarship is wanting. So maybe it is like the scholarship is asking for leadership experience and you wrote about leadership for your Common App, you're more than welcome to use that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel with some of these.
Any last minute questions? Again, you can always reach out to us on campus, definitely in the thick of college application season, but we're happy to chat with all grade levels. Again, stop by the career centers on campus so that way students, you can access, we do college essay edit appointments. We'll eventually be doing financial aid appointments, starting the fall, later fall and spring, going over FAFSA and scholarships, things like that. We can help look at your college list if you're still not certain, help go over the actual application if you're like confused about where to put certain things. So seniors are not required to apply for FAFSA, but if you are wanting to qualify for financial aid through the government, such as Cal Grants, Pell Grants, or student loans, that is through FAFSA. So it's definitely pertinent if those are something you're interested in. And then some schools require the completion of FAFSA as part of their merit aid or scholarships, even if you don't qualify for income-based financial aid. But these are things we definitely can chat about as we get closer to financial aid season, which starts in December this year. And there are some financial aid programs, some colleges that do utilize the test score as part of their financial aid calculation for scholarships, but maybe Ms. Gallen or Ms. Jossel can speak as well to that. The few schools that I've seen that do ask for an SAT score as part of their scholarship program application have also started letting families have an option to not submit it because it's not required for the most part by other schools. So they're giving them options. So it depends on the school, but it very well could be.
For your letter of recommendation, you can use either one. If you are, have a good relationship with your college counselor and you'd like to ask them, you can ask them. But typically your comprehensive counselor is who is writing your letters of recommendation. All really good questions tonight, you guys.
Any last questions? Maybe time for one or two more? You all are asking some great questions, so definitely a good webinar, hopefully. If you do have a question, would you put it in the Q&A? You should be able to get a letter of rec from a teacher who's retired, pending that you can communicate with them. So finding their email from the school office, the admin downstairs or in your front office. Yeah, that should be no problem. If there's ever any questions, chat with your college counselor. But yes, I've had students do that many, many times, or if they've moved school, so not a big deal. Well, if you don't have any other questions, thank you all for joining us. We are very appreciative of you spending some time with us this evening.
Yes, you can absolutely walk in. We obviously do have links to make a one-on-one appointment, but if we are, if we're in the College and Career Center and we do not have a student, absolutely come on in and we can definitely answer any questions you have. Okay? Just answering that last question.
All right, thank you for joining. If you don't have any more questions, go enjoy your night, get some good dinner and relax. Maybe start your college essay tonight.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Yes, you can make an appointment with your college counselor. With the follow-up email, we'll send the contact info, but your College and Career Center on campus, if you stop in, they'll have a form as well. So I encourage that too, just to meet them as well too. I think it's nice to go face to face and chat with them, but yeah, we'll send that out.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
All right, have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
All right,
Everyone.
good
Okay,
night.
bye.